Hey up, how you going? So I've got a few videos which are starting to get some views now. Thank you very much, people. Uh, on snakes, the brown snake in particular I pick on because it's so common in Australia. What to do to avoid getting into trouble with it and what to do if it decides to attack you. And I recommend carrying a knife if you're in an area where it's a bit of a prevalent risk. Now, have I got some fascination with knives and I'm trying to encourage people to wander around with large weapons? No, it's just that I see that there's a big gap in Australia in the way people are educated about our creatures. Now, Australia is a place that's famous for its dangerous creatures. I mean, you get comedians like Billy Connolly doing comedy routines on it, and everybody talks about it, and yet people have got very, very little knowledge on what to do if confronted by any of these things. Really, if you get knowledge, like in this region, it's venomous snakes, it's sort of local knowledge where you learn how to handle them because, knowledge is passed around and in your working life, you're meeting these creatures all the time, you develop a base of knowledge to work from and so on. And yet, should it really be down to that? I mean, to pick on venomous snakes, but of course the same applies to shark attack, crocodiles, blue ring octopus, all the kind of stuff that we've got in this country that's deadly, like deadly enough to kill you, that deadly. When it comes to venomous snakes, every medical facility in this country has anti-venom stocked up, which costs millions of dollars a year to produce. And all the staff are trained up on how to treat snake bite. So snake bite is obviously a very real risk for everybody in this country, and quite a few people are bitten by venomous snakes in Australia every year. So the government spends millions of dollars on treating you if you get bitten, but they don't spend 10 cents on telling you how to avoid getting bitten in the first place. And I think that's a pretty big gap in government policy. Now, I've got a friend who is actually a scientist who works with snakes. He's got a fascination with the tiger snake because its complexity of its venom, and he's trying to develop a universal anti-venom, one venom from the tiger snake venom, because it contains quite a few different components to it that are common to other snake venoms that can be used for all snakes. Also, he's researching the application of the stuff to anaesthesia and for chemotherapy with people with advanced cancers and stuff like that, because it's a very complex thing and not a real lot is known about these very complex biological substances. Now, he started a program which I've got a video of on my channel. I videotaped it. Dave's a hell of a guy. He wanted to educate kids, in particular in areas around here where we get a lot of poisonous snakes. Yes, poisonous snakes or venomous snakes, you make up your mind what you want to call them, but we all know what we're talking about, don't we? He tried to educate kids in school, and he set up a program where he himself, without asking for any money, went along to local schools and showed school kids what it's like to milk a snake. He actually took along some venomous snakes and milked them there in the classrooms. And it was very successful. People liked it a lot. And then a few of the do-gooder greenie types protested and the whole thing was shut down. And yet that program could have been extended into, for the more advanced students, getting older, what to do if a snake attacks you, that kind of stuff. Now, you'd think in a country like Australia, this would be something that we just do by nature, and yet we don't. And I think it's a big oversight. Now, for example, if you're out on a fishing boat, how many people go fishing in small boats in Australia? What should you do if you hook a reasonably large shark? And what would you call a large shark? How big a shark do you need to be a danger to you in a small boat? And like if you happen to hook a 12-foot white pointer when you're in a 13-foot boat, what's the course of action you should follow? Well, I can tell you every professional fisherman I know just cuts a line, starts the engine and runs for it. That's how serious they regard the issue, and yet no education about that is given in our schools. What would you do if you came to a creek crossing in a four-wheel drive and you knew there's possibly crocodiles in the water? What would be the correct procedure? Now, if you were local to the area, you'd probably understand. But if you're a tourist, are you taking unnecessary risk by doing a creek crossing in a place like that? Stuff like that. I mean, it's pretty basic, isn't it? So next time you're talking to a politician and an election comes up, mention to him, I think we ought to have a bit more education in how to handle ourselves around the dangerous creatures in this country, rather than just throwing millions of dollars at fixing up all the wounded people who've had encounters with them if they manage to avoid being killed outright. My 10 cents worth, see you later.